I think my grandmother died when I was, I don't know, around 22, 23, 24. I don't remember exactly when. She was in a resting home, and we would go see her sometimes, and her memory had faded and her well-being had suffered a lot. I just remember being at the nursing home. She was gone. The family was there, and we were all kind of just, I don't know, reflecting on her passing and on her life and how much we'd miss her. And it was this real feeling of just it's over. It was different than other experiences I'd had with loss, because sometimes with loss there was this real feeling of resistance and lack of acceptance. And I remember in her case there was this just like a relentless acceptance that came along with it. It was just real matter of fact. Felt almost bad to accept it as easily as it was to accept it, but in her case, I think it felt more like accepting that it was the best thing for her. And I think in other cases where I'd experienced loss, it was this denial of that, or sometimes just the total that just didn't feel true. It wasn't really for the best. They weren't suffering for years or whatever. In her case, she had been suffering for years, and there was this bittersweet relief that came with the end of her suffering. So I think that peace of mind and that acceptance of the situation, it felt to me like sitting in a bar with someone and them being like, I gotta work in the morning, I gotta go, and you being like, I want to be a bad influence, I want to be like, I want to try to convince you to stay longer than you should, but it's for the best that you go home. I think that was the feeling I started to have around this song. And I also started to think back around memories I'd had with her. She was just a really sweet person, and we would talk sometimes, and we had a very silent relationship. We would just be in the same place and just exist, and she would just kind of walk around, do her thing, ask questions every once in a while, kind of worry, but then just kind of not really express herself all that much. But every once in a while we'd sit outside of the house and I'd ask her a question or two. I asked her once to tell me about her love story with my grandfather, and in very plain terms, she just said, I lived with my aunt at the time, and I met your grandfather, and he just approached me and said, you want to get married and get a house and everything? And I really wanted to move out of my aunt's house, so I said yeah, and then we got a house, and we got married, and we got a house, and that was how our life started. It was so plain and so matter of fact, and they were together so long, and they loved each other so much. Another memory I had was I asked my grandmother if she had like a favorite song, particularly like not a gospel song or anything, just regular song from a recording artist. And she told me that she liked the song Sunday Morning Coming Down a lot by Johnny Cash, most notably, but written by Chris Christopherson. And she told me that it reminded her of her childhood. And at first I thought that was like a very harsh idea, particularly because the song starts out, describing this disheveled guy. I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt. And I had a beer for breakfast, and I smoked cigarettes all night long. And I was like, man, is that what we're talking about? But, as the song goes on, this guy is missing the simplicity. He's living this harsh life and missing the simplicity of his childhood. And he's walking around this town. He's hearing church bells. He smells fried chicken. He sees kids kicking a can around the street. And he misses the simple times, it seems like. And I think that nostalgia is what she was talking about. That nostalgia for how she grew up and what the world looked like and stuff. my grandmother also would tell me these stories of, like tricks that her and her cousins would play on grandmothers, like hiding tobacco worms in snuff cans and mischievous little things. After she passed, I felt me at like age, whatever I was, 25 or so. And I thought a lot about how life goes by, how she was 85 or so, and how at one point she was nostalgic for her childhood, and she missed her family, and she moved into a house and started a life and bet everything on my grandfather, and she must have had all these experiences, and somehow these things just collided. All these things collided into this song, Cussing at a Neon Sign. Probably the reason that the phrase cussing at a neon sign came to the forefront to the point where I made it such a focus of the song is, I mean, it's interesting with this church going lady who is just an absolute saint and probably never did anything wrong her whole life. She liked this song, Sunday Morning Coming Down. I think one of the first thoughts I had when she told me that was the line in the song, I saw a little boy cussing at a can that he'd been kicking. And I was like, this is interesting to me because she's perceived probably as a hyper moral person, a hyper innocent person. But she likes this song that is from the perspective of this kind of gruff person. And I found that really interesting. So the word cussing kind of found its way into my song, and I thought this is what I'm going to write about. It's sort of this dilemma between the appearance of this like saintly person, but also the life they've lived that naturally came with the same temptations and experiences and maybe whatever, just normal human aspects of life that we have but don't talk about. So the song became this two people sitting in a bar kind of acknowledging each other, and one of them looking at the other and being like, do you really have to go? Can't you like tell me more of these stories that you've told me about all these mischievous things or these memories you have? Can't you like continue to sit here with me and remember the past? I like the phrase cussing at a neon sign because I think I picture it as like being bitter toward alcohol, which I think was common in her time period, but like like responding to the sin of alcohol or something with a variation of another sin, like saying a cuss word or whatever. And for me, it was cussing at a neon sign was all about all these little conflicts, like innocence colliding with mischievousness. Smoking cigarettes and stealing gloves from your parents. And my favorite lines probably of the song are like, in that night you parked a car to listen to the radio by the trestle bridge and whispered, I don't want to go to Sunday school tomorrow, and kissing on the lips. And it's like, it's the first experiences of love kind of being put up against the innocent emphasis on, go to church in the morning and be a good kid and don't be getting into trouble and all that stuff. It's just life, man. It's just the very conflict of life.